So I ventured from my cave to pick up Dead to Rights Retribution, probably with latex gloves and the longest pair of tongs I could find, when I noticed a game on the new release shelves I'd never heard of. A Square Enix game, apparently populated with characters who dress themselves by running at full speed into the bin behind a fetish shop. Exactly the sort of thing you'd expect Square Enix to be proud of, but it's flown completely under the radar. I asked everyone I knew, and neither of them had heard of it either. Ooh, I thought, this mystery intrigues me, and if Dead to Rights Retribution is anything like the first Dead to Rights, I could probably simulate it just as well by shooting execution style a few people with funny accents. So fuck it, let's see if it's a hidden gem or a petrified arsehole they were hoping could scoot by unnoticed. Since then I've played through NieR, and I must say it's gratifying to see that the game is named after the sound I make when asked to describe it. NieR is in actuality the name of the main character, the guy on the box who looks a bit like Emmett Brown wearing his underpants on his face. I only found this out later though, because before the game tells you his name it asks you if you can come up with a better one, and thus began the adventures of Twatty Cake, defender of the innocent. Twatty Cake is a middle-aged village handyman who is seeking a cure for his daughter's mysterious disease that makes incomprehensible writing appear on her body, which is exactly the excuse I gave my mum when I got back from the tattoo shop. I must say, it's nice to see a Square Enix RPG where the main character isn't a skinny emo child whose balls are still in his fucking neck, although there is still plenty of angst to go around. The other members of your party are an angsty leprechaun version of Jack Skellington and an angsty lady, whose angst apparently stems from a question mark hanging over the whole lady thing. Or should I say, hanging under? I know outfits in JRPGs tend to lean towards the fetishistic, but I swear they're just trying to see what they can get away with now. The woman's combat gear is a jockstrap and a negligee. Someone should probably call them out on this, or the next game will have a heroine going into battle in nothing but high heels and 3 bits of masking tape. Insert name here's combat is of the hacky-slashy variety. Swinging the weapons feels a bit gluey at times, but overall it's functional if uninteresting, like former Prime Minister John Major. Although what is interesting is that enemy magic attacks take a cue from bullet hell shooters of all things, filling the room with row after row of deadly spheres like a long-distance teabagging, turning gameplay into more like navigating an organic maze of glow testicles than dodging bullets, except that the block move renders them harmless, so much for that. There's a bit of a difficulty problem overall. Twatty Cake has a variety of his own magic attacks that are about as balanced as entering an orc at a cockfight, especially the one that lets you pause the game, point at an enemy and summon the ethereal equivalent of a tactical nuclear strike. Even the final bosses got their shit ruined with the most basic armor-breaking attacks, and after maxing out on healing items and the best weapons, I still had 100 grand kicking around. What else am I supposed to spend this money on, game? Maintaining the back garden? Oh, yes, apparently. You know how in some RPGs you start off in your lovely idyllic green grass home village where smiling neighbours bid you how do you do and which is virtually guaranteed to get Hiroshima-fied before the second act? Well, NieR is like that, but never quite gets as far as the second bit. Frankly, I wish it would. Here we have a stalwart fighter who, in between fighting cosmic death beasts from beyond the veil of time and space, has to repeatedly run back home to water his melons, spend quality time with his child, and see if anyone needs him to run down the shops to buy them a healing potion and a Mars bar. It's one of those games that seeks to challenge the notion that gamers need to get a life by attempting to simulate one. As well as planting and harvesting crops for about 1/100th of the profit margin to be found in monster murdering, there's also a fishing minigame, which is about as fun as digging hooks into your own gums, and of course the fetch quest, since you're the only person in town who can read shopping lists. I suppose in the game's defense, while it does force you back to the home village every half hour like it's ringing a service bell, you don't have to do anything when you get there, although I did get pangs of guilt when I saw the ocean of floating speech bubbles hovering over the helpless townsfolk whose feet were apparently encased in cement. One game I'm also reminded of is Zelda, for Zelda is only one game with about 50 different dresses. It has a similar overworld dungeon structure, and one of the bosses bears such a close resemblance to a boss from Zelda Wind Waker that it's either a deliberate homage or a sign that the games industry needs to go to its room and seriously think about what it's doing. And something it has in common with Zelda Twilight Princess is that someone lent too hard on the bloom button. It's like all you have to do is walk into a tunnel and the sun goes supernova. Maybe this explains why Twatty Cake takes to wearing his pants over his eyes. Anyway, NieR was presumably working with less of a budget than Zelda and rapidly recycles like air crash survivors in the mountains. You go through maybe 4 dungeons and the action skips ahead 5 years for no apparent reason, which everyone presumably spends sitting around in their pants waiting to figure out the next course of action, which turns out to be go to the same 4 dungeons again. All the while listening to the same fucking 10-second music loops over and over again, which are all now playing in the elevators of my personal hell. And there's a pretty fucking glaring budget cut at one point where a dungeon is replaced by a series of text screens. Seriously, I didn't buy a PS3 to play Zork, bitch. NieR has the bones of a half-decent action RPG in here somewhere, but bones are only good as long as you drink your milk and avoid throwing yourself down flights of stairs. The combat is alright, and story and characters are somewhat above average, if a little enamoured with glurgy power of friendship drama, but there's too much fat wobbly wrapping paper around the good bits. Explain to me the appeal of a weapon and magic upgrade system where you have to go down your list of spells and weapons, applying the same upgrade to all of them individually like ticking a fucking school register. It's a game that paradoxically cuts down its adventure content while leaving room for stupid fucking gardening and spoon-feeding retarded villagers. Perhaps there was some cock-up at the budget meeting and fun got allocated less money than the knobbing around department. For bits of it that were so boring I almost had a near-death experience. Boosh!